Hi class. So today we're gonna do a lower extremities. So what is highlighted right now in green, well, there's upper extremities and lower extremities, but lower extremities include hip, femur, a thigh, tibia, and fibula, leg, and the foot. So the foot include tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. So let's start with a hip bone. So there are two hip bones on the left and the right side. So the pelvic girder is attached to the skeleton through one of the vertebrates, through the sacral vertebrae. So it articulates with a sacral vertebrae. So there are three major parts: ilium, pubis, or the pubic, and the ischium. Also another major part is this fossa. So this is acetabular fossa. That's where the head of the femur will articulate with the entire hip. And if I will add the connective tissue, this is the pubic symphysis area. This is made out of fibrocartilage, but the real anatomical name for that is interpubic disc. Also another important landmark, or the part in the hip bone, is this foramen. So this is called obturator foramen. So this canal allows the passage of obturator nerves and vessels between the pelvic and the high femoral region. This area is called a pubic brim, and this area right here is called a pubic arch. So if it resembles letter V, that most likely it belongs to a male. If it would resemble letter U, then most likely it belongs to a female. So how can you tell the difference between the left hip bone and the right hip bone? So the first, you would pay attention to this articulating part. You see like a rough surface. So this articulating part and this facet points to the medial side, and also pay attention to this fossa right here, and also pay attention to this articulating side that also points to the medial side. That's where the pubic symphysis are, right here. So these two important landmarks, they had to point to the medial side. So then you know that it is a right in this case, because you also pay attention to this fossa in the ilium part. So now let's look at the femur. This is a right femur, and the way you can tell that this is a right one, just because the head and the neck points to the medial side. So then when you will look at the posterior side, and I highlighted this for the landmarks, this particular surface is called intercondyle or intercondylar fossa. Because if you look at the anterior side, this is a patella that protects the knee. So if we remove the patella, the anterior side is called patellar surface of the femur. So it's kind of shallow compared to the posterior side of intercondylar fossa of the femur. So similar to the humerus, and remember we discussed that humerus has medial and lateral epicondyles. So in the femur, there's also medial and lateral epicondyles, and you see it's pointy to the medial side. Also, two important landmarks are the trochanter. So this is a greater trochanter, and this is a lesser trochanter. That's for the muscle tendon attachments. And not that may be important, but one of the surfaces in posterior side is called linea aspera. So this is a ridge that travels down along the posterior aspect of the body of the femur. So it consists of the medial and lateral lips and the intermediate zone that located in between these two ends. So this is important landmarks for muscle attachments. So then distally, femur articulates with the leg, and the leg includes tibia and the fibula, similar to the forearm, humerus and the radius. So the tibia is the medial bone, and the fibula is a lateral bone. So the tibia bears the weight, and fibula does not bear any weight. So the fibula, this bone, is important for muscle attachments, for the balance, but there's no weight bearing on that particular bone. So the important landmarks in the tibia are these articulating surfaces, and remember this surface intercondylar fossa. So it articulates with this upper region right here. In the tibia, these two side platforms are also called condyles. So this is the medial epicondyle and this is the lateral epicondyle. But when you're holding tibia, it is really hard to differentiate. This is the right or left bone. So here's an area, this elevation is called tibial tuberosity. And you can actually palpate that just below the patella. So that slight elevation tells you that this is anterior side. Then you know that this is the anterior side. So if this is the anterior side, so now you can figure out if it's right or left. So, but to truly know if it's right or left, you have to go distally. And in the distal part, all the way down, you see this kind of a stylose process, similar to a radius. But in this case, we do not call it styloid process. This is called malleolus, medial malleolus. And you see the medial malleolus kind of wraps around an ankle. So wraps around a bone is called talus. That's the part of the ankle. So this medial malleolus is always on the medial side. Then this tibial tuberosity. So then you know that this is a anterior side and that should be a right bone. Another important landmark is the shin, right? You've heard of the shin. So and it hurts when you actually hit your leg up against the hard surface. So this is simply called anterior border of the tibia, but we usually call it a shin. So this is a medial bone and the lateral bone is the fibula. And this is a head of a fibula. And if we go down into the distal part, so this part is called also malleolus, but this is a fibular malleolus. So it also wraps around the ankle, also wraps around the talus. So it's basically two malleoluses wraps around a talus. So here it's not very distinct, but this little pointy area is called stylose process, similar to a radius and to the ulna. But in radius and the ulna, stylose process in the distal part of the bone, but in the fibula styloid process in the proximal part of the bone, because in the distal part of the bone you have this malleolus. So in these two facets of the tibia, so in these two facets of the fibula and the facet of the tibia articulates with one of the tarsal bones that is called talus. So now we can proceed into a third part of the lower limb, a foot. So all of the bones that are highlighted right now in green belongs to a foot. So the foot has 7 tarsals, 5 metatarsals, and 14 phalanges, similar to the hand. It's just we're missing one, not really missing, but there's 7 tarsals compared to a hand where there's 8 carpals. So the important tarsals are calcaneus or calcaneus, talus, and then the navicular. Not that important, but there's a medial cuneiform, that there is intermediate cuneiform, that there is lateral cuneiform, and this one is a cuboid. So the talus, as you see, if we will isolate that, articulates superiorly with the tibia, then inferiorly articulates with a calcaneus, and then on the medial side and lateral side, it articulates with tibial malleolus and fibular malleolus, and also in this direction articulates with the navicular bone. So then this taluses articulates with metatarsals. So this would be a first metatarsal in the medial side, because that's where there's a big toe or the hallux. Metatarsal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then phalanges, similar to a hand. Like with the thumb there was 2. So here's also 2. So it's proximal and distal. And with other digits similar to our hand, also proximal, medial, and distal. So the calcaneus or calcaneus is important because here at the heel part, the posterior part, that's where there's a lot of muscles are attached to. So there's attachment for Achilles tendon, that's a street name, but there's attachment for the gastrocnemius, for soleus muscles, for plantaris muscles. So we will discuss muscles in the muscular lecture. So the lower extremities has 30 bones. 1 in the thigh, femur, 2 in the leg, tibia and the fibula, and then 26 bones in the foot, and 1 patella. So it makes up 30 bones. There are actually 6 bones that we did not discuss, so it's 3 on each side. These are the bones of the hearing on each side within this region. That's where there's acoustic meatus. So those bones are inside. I don't have these bones in this program. I'm surprised why they do not have these bones. So with this we conclude the entire human skeleton. Have a great day.